Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 15 of This Valorant Life. Join Adam and myself as we do a deep dive into how to play Icebox, a map that I just recently played last night and clearly have no idea how to play. So thankfully, we've got Adam here to teach us the way. Adam, as we jump into Icebox, it looks like we want to talk about comp first. Like, what do you think a standard comp looks like for this map and why?
So it's obviously a little bit ranked, different in rank than it is pro play. VCT always has completely different comps, so we'll just keep this one to rank specific. The important thing that you need to have is an opper, so jet, and then you also need to have one initiator at least, just for pushes. And then other than that, you need your smokes. Typically Viper is the main one. And because mid is kind of like a heavy lurk point, ideally you do have a sentinel. This can honestly be in the form of Sage as well, because you could wall inside tube so they can't lurk up tube. People do that a lot in ranked. But ideally you do have a Killjoy. The double molly we'll get into later, but it's really good for plant denial as well. So the three big key pieces is at least having the Viper, the Sova, and the Duelist, but you can get away with the other ones.
So the Sova as an initiator, really, you could probably get away with him or with Fade.
Yeah, you could probably even stick Gecko in there, just to kind of get best of both worlds with the plant being a little bit safer. But Sova is definitely the most standard because the drone is good to counter ops.
And maybe it would also be helpful to just talk about what's this map like? Are there parts of this map that we should think about that kind of are borrowed from other maps?
Kind of. It's hard to make an exact one-to-one. I think Icebox is unique in that sense. You don't really have an A main and a B main, for example. You do have like B long and you have like kind of A space. So I can't really say one-to-one, and mid is a completely different beast in itself.
So let's jump into the attacking side then. That looks like how we're set up anyways. What does a standard default look like, or is the default even a thing on this map?
That's a great question. I think I'll start with the second one. You don't actually default that much in Icebox and rank.
So why is that? Why is it different than other maps?
On other maps, defenders can typically contest the space early on and control that space, right? But Icebox, most of it is just given to attackers, right? You can kind of just walk up mid and duel the guy boiler, so you don't really need to default mid, and you can just passively hold it too. Same with A. You can pretty much get all of close A space relatively easily, so you're not that required to default.
Yeah, it's not common that you'd be fighting for like this space, or like fighting as on defense for these spaces. Like even as I think about it, it feels like really awkward. Like it feels really awkward to hold. Like it feels like there are a ton of angles you would need to clear.
Yeah, and I think it boils down to defenders have a harder time pushing on this map compared to other maps. Like when you push on Icebox, you're going for a pick, but it's less so to control space compared to other ones. So yeah, you can't default. By the way, it's if you do want to default, you kind of just like take B main space. So you'll have like 3 here. You have the Viper Orb middle for info denial, and then you can also put your Killjoy turret there too, just to kind of hold it. And then you kind of just sit outside A like here.
Okay.
So like this is kind of what default would look like probably in a VCT match or something similar, but it's not that common in ranked, I think.
Okay. So then most of the strategies, I'm guessing then, would be kind of hitting A or hitting B. And then on top of that strategy, it's like, what's the lurk strategy, or what's the lurk player doing?
So super simple, as you said. You either go hard A or hard B, and then your lurk is kind of important. So, of course, if you go hard A, you can kind of do a fake and then go back to B. If your B lurker is there, we can draw that example if we want to. Ideally, you do have the poison orb in middle still. You go heavy A, and then maybe he lurks at B main or something. So you could do that way. Some Vipers have like an orb lineup from mid from here as well to make that a thing.
So what are the nuances of hitting A? So usually they're on defense, there will be another Viper. And there will be a Viper defensive wall across the top of mid box. What is that called? What's that box called? 410? Yeah. So there'll be the Viper wall across 410. What are the because I think like theoretically I can see why it's easy to just kind of execute onto A, but it always feels like there's so many nooks and crannies to clear out. So like, well, what is what is a good protocol? Like, let's say with this comp, what's a good protocol look like to be taking A? Is it about taking different heights? Is it about clearing different areas with mollies? Like, what is your kind of thought process around taking A?
Okay, so there's three things that come to mind. Let's start with the first one, is actually getting close control. So I'll just throw a Killjoy somewhere. She's not really important here. And I'll just throw the attacker wall like this, just to have a standard wall to talk about. There's a little bit of other variations, like you can do the one from here, and it goes across to kind of cut off heaven as well. But for the sake of this, we'll just keep it simple. So the first thing is taking close A control. So what that means is your sub is going to dart on here, and that stops any defending player from pushing up. So most commonly, the Jett likes to go top pipes, where they like to push up by the orb to kind of get this kill, or maybe they even go a little bit past it to, fight the Reyna and the Jett in this example. So the early dart stops anyone from instantly dying, right? So that's step one. If you can't do step one, you have to take it a little bit slower. Like, you don't have to dart. So take it a little bit slower. You might all swing belt, or you might, all go from belt and then drop down lower. However you get to the close position here getting here is the important part. So step one is just getting here, right? And you need the dart to do that. The second thing is, which you pointed out, was elevation is very important on the Icebox execute. So typically this means that you'll have a player either go nest and or a player go top pipes. And by having these two positions, you can kind of make other positions not as strong. Most notably, top 410, some players like to play there, can't play there no more. This headshot box is a lot worse now because you're playing against pipes and nest.
Yep.
Inside nest is super hard. And now this close left position has an awkward up-down if the Jett were to swing on top of pipes, while, let's say in this example, the Reyna's on the floor.
Okay.
Right. So having at least one player on elevation for the A execute makes it a lot easier.
So a key point there would be, in case everyone you see is just running through, let's say at ground level, you should be the player jumping up to pipes, or you should be the player going on rope.
Correct. Most of the time, the duelist will go on top pipes or rope, because those positions are a little bit more gun duel favored, and the ground level is a little bit safer to throw your util. So typically that's how that works. So that's two. Third is actually, when you're taking the site, some key areas to clear and think about is obviously close left that we have here. Jen here. Yep. And then I'm going to move this enemy Jett for the other one is, let's just say this back site area. And we can probably go through each one by one. So close left obviously is first point of contact. That's kind of a hard angle to clear. Jen, you kind of need to clear that to get rid of the crossfire if if there is a guy kind of playing off of them backside. But the most important piece here is actually controlling that backside space, because they have the up-down swing from top rafter and hell. So if they were to time their peak properly, you kind of just get rolled, right? Also that's a very common rotating position. So if we were to throw in Sage here, which actually we didn't talk about Sage, the most common way for Sages to take A site is by walling off backside like this, vertical wall, giving themselves a little gap to plant along the rope here. And then that wall blocks off hell, so your team can focus on rafters, right? If you don't have the Sage to take A, it is a lot harder, because then instead of focusing in these kind of segments where we're going 1, 2, 3, which is the close left, Jen, and backside, you now have to incorporate this routing here to deal with the backside guy, right? You want to pinch the backside guy. So instead of a 1, 2, 3, 4, instead of a 1, 2, 3 approach going into the site, you now have to go about it as like I don't even know how you would explain it. It's like you can't do it incrementally. You have to do it all at the same time.
Yeah, you kind of have
that's
to.
That's a lot harder. Yeah, so much harder. So much harder.
Okay. And what is the so you kind of called you already kind of laid out the default plant spot, which is right. We're gonna do the spike right next to the rope. How do you think about doing the default plant stop there versus doing it here? Like sometimes people will wall nest and plant nest.
Okay, so nest is actually considered god plant. If you can do that, that's actually better.
So if you've got time you've done like a B, like a rotate off B, no one's on A, no one's there, you just plant top nest.
Yeah, top nest is typically better because obviously you can see the bomb from more angles, and they have less cover from when you're playing. The problem is, like, if you're planning top nest, then your teammates don't typically control backside to cover you, so it's a little bit harder. But yeah, and you can get wall banged. That's the other point. The guy playing CT here, this Jet, can actually wall bang you through nest if you don't do the sage wall.
Okay. Post plant. How are you playing this post plant?
So post plant's not straightforward, unfortunately. You do want to have someone kind of playing aggressively, either by dice here or by hell. Hell being like there's that little pillar beam
that you can back up against.
Yeah, so you kind of want to play there, and then you do want to play have someone in this little elbow area to kind of play off of someone's contact.
Okay.
You can also, like, the Sova can kind of bounce back left and right.
And so why aren't you like, because often I will see all of the team kind of all fall back to like here.
Yeah, so a lot of times your teammates actually won't plant here, which is like you can see that plant from hell, or sorry, what is this called? Jail.
Yeah.
So you can see the plant here from jail, but if, for example, 90% of ranked players, especially in the lower ranks, just plant safe. So safe is by this default box, and you actually can't see that spike anywhere. You can't see it from belt, you can't see it from jail, you can't see it from pipes, you can't even see it from rafters.
So then you have to play up close.
You have to. You just have to go for kills. So this is typically what happens. If you do plant here, for example, by the rope, then you're actually allowed to go back and play jail. You're actually even allowed to go as far back to start wrapping, to go back to belt and then take the fight there. You're also allowed to play top pipes, because then you can take the rope and go over, just kind of get a cheeky angle, because your teammates will be getting them off spike while you're going for that type of play. And then typically the rope plant, if your teammates are very, very good, they also have lineups there too. So yeah, rope plant is good to play off site. If you have lineups, even better. If you have default plant, you have to play on site. If you have top nest spot for god plant, you're also allowed to play off site. So it really depends on the plant spot.
Okay, and there's no world where you're pushing into spawn.
That one's a hard one, because there's not a very easy way to do it. But if the enemy Killjoy, for example, has Killjoy ult, then this ult almost essentially wins them the round. So just to make it a little bit easier to see, I'm gonna get rid of this.
So if you know that KJ, enemy KJ or defending team has this ult, you really need to be trying to take this space.
Yeah, and that's very hard to do. If you have Viper ulting, like getting the Viper to push up here, or sorry, I gotta change the, okay. So you could do that to counter that. Otherwise you might have like a mid lurk, right, going through the mid orb. That could be good too.
Okay. But that's the one thing we actually didn't talk about through all of this, is we went through all of how to hit site, post plant thoughts and kind of play patterns. What are we doing through mid while hitting A?
Great question. So notice how I actually didn't put this orb on A as part of the execute, because there is a world where that orb on A is good. So let me back up a little bit. If you do just want to full hit A, you can, which means you'll be doing this wall and this orb. So you'll notice how this orb is supposed to land on top of rafters, and now it gets rid of that up down, and you can kind of plant
and it's
there.
a one way if they're swinging from hell.
Exactly. So if you just want to full execute A, this is very good. Unfortunately, they nerfed the Viper some patches ago, so when you have orb and wall up, your toxin goes down super, super quick. So your timing window to take the site's a lot shorter. So that being the case, you'll see most Vipers now kind of just orb middle and act as the lurker. Sometimes the Killjoy will lurk too, but for the sake of this example, let's just do the Viper. Viper is just gonna kind of passively hold. There's two ways you can lurk here, like super off barrier timing and super passive. If you do it super aggressive off barrier timing, if there's Sova on the enemy team plays Boiler, because this is where Sovas typically play on defense, is they will insta-dart to try to see if the lurker is lurking, right? But what you can actually do if you get the timing right is you can just throw the orb basically where the Viper is standing now and run into the orb and dodge the dart. And if you do this, you can now walk under, which is obviously a little bit risky, but you can get that timing. You could walk through the orb, catch the Sova off guard, or you can sit in the orb, wait for the dart to fade, and then come back around and get into tube, and they don't expect you to be that fast. Right. So this is the aggressive way of lurking. When you do this type of lurk, you're looking for a really early kill or a really fast flank on A. So if your teammates are full rushing A, you dodge the dart, get in the orb, and then this Sova rotates to A because your teammates are rushing A. You can kind of just like walk up and shoot them in the back.
Got it.
So that's the aggressive way of lurking. If you do passive lurk, you kind of just put the orb up to kind of get in their heads. And then maybe on your second or third cycle of fuel, you will start to walk up and then maybe get into tube. And then if you get into this window angle, you can actually see the B rotates. So I'm just going to put the jet, say he was playing B, and then he rotates through spawn. You can just see him, and then you just shoot him through the window.
Okay, you can see over boiler now?
You can see over boiler.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't realize.
So
I
it's pretty
just
insane.
see kind of mid.
Yeah.
Where are you in the past? Because I just died like multiple times playing this yesterday. So when you're playing that passive lurk, I was sitting like here or sometimes up here. Where do you want to be sitting on this passive lurk before you try to take a timing to creep up mid and creep up into kitchen?
So there's some levels to it. If you want to be as passive as possible, you'd probably be sitting back here, kind of holding the tube angle, and then walk up really late. The benefit of sitting here is that if they push B, you can kind of get a cheese angle on them, for example.
Okay.
If you're being a little bit more aggressive, you can kind of take the spot of where the turret is. Again, having that headshot angle to see if they push down tube or if they push your orb. The two positions you listed out, which was on box and here, just for the sake of this, I'll put Killjoy. These two angles are great because you get closer timings, but they are risky because if they combo a Sova dart on defense to land here while the enemy team pushes you, you might die.
Yeah.
So
you've got no cover whatsoever. So you could also get flashed. Cover.
Yeah, it's very hard. So my favorite positions when I go for this look is either here. Let me switch it back.
Yeah.
Back here, or even close here, and just playing off the turret if you have one, or you can kind of jiggle from here too. And then you just take the timing afterwards. Yeah.
Okay. Let's do B.
Okay, let's do B. There's actually a B lurk we could touch on first since we're on the topic of lurks. Sure. I actually don't know how to throw the wall exactly, but I'm going to do my best. I want to say it's right here, and you kind of throw it across. And notice, and again, this might not be completely accurate, but just the idea is there, is that by throwing the wall on the left side of the barrier and not the right side, like you see it's a little bit further out here, you're giving yourself a gap as the Viper to walk into. So you could walk up all the way here behind this box. And then you can kind of like go for a lurk there and like, maybe challenge the guy B. So if you default the B wall, what that means is you're throwing the wall B every single round because you actually don't need it on A, especially if you have a Sage. Then you'll be able to pressure B with this wall by either threatening the lurk or by threatening a B execute. So if you do that, then throwing it with a gap is important to go for the lurk. So
got it. Okay.
Okay. Aside from that, actually executing B, again, the Viper wall is a little bit different for this. You could just execute B with the default wall just so they don't catch that you're doing something different with it. But I think the way that people throw Viper walls when you do execute B is like this. And notice the difference. I'll put both on screen.
It's really just how it's catching the top of nest.
Yeah, it's the way it gets top sight and also the way it lines up with the corner.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know which one's better than the other because unfortunately I'm not a Viper main, but that is worth noting that the nuance is there is that with this wall that I'm going to remove, with this one here, an enemy jet can actually play in front of this wall and take that shot, but it also allows attackers, I'll just put raids here, to actually be able to push through the wall to go under sight. There's that little divot there. Mm-hmm. And then when you are there, this wall gives you cover. And this wall, and like now that this is narrow, you can get a timing there. So essentially it's like a more aggressive wall for attackers. So there's a little bit more risk involved, but you get more reward. So I just thought that was worth pointing out.
Okay.
Aside from that, taking B is super simple. Okay, so you just go here, you push off the guy who's fighting you. So the guy that's fighting you will either be top yellow, jiggling from here, like kind of close. If they are close, they typically have the one way here, but we'll get rid of that for now. They're just kind of fighting close, or there might be a guy that's just playing back here. Those are the 3 common spots, right? So you can either just insta jump peek or drone. So Reyna's here, Jet's here, and Viper is here. Just for the sake of this, you want to clear these 3 positions. You need to have Sova drone typically. So Sova will like to go garage here. The reason why you want to drone from garage is just for the extra distance, right? Because if you start from back here, it's too far. So insta droning. Once you do take the space, you kind of fight them, whatever. Ideally, you dart to clear yellow. So you want the dart to land here if you're really good, just to clear this back box angle here. Because obviously, if you dart here, this Jet can now dodge it. So a little bit of little tidbit there is worth noting. But once you are actually fully able to secure B main / yellow area, the rest of the B execute is easy. You just have to be worried about the mollies now. So that's kind of that sneak peek that we talked about with the Killjoy. Having the double molly can actually be very annoying. Sometimes Vipers will play the orb here. I'll put the whole setup so you'll see. There's a defense Viper orb here. Then the Viper plays back sight. And then double mollies the plant. And then the Killjoys also have a molly around the corner and maybe even on spike or both around the corner. And you basically just get delayed by 4 mollies and you can't even plant. So that's how B bomb sight is. It's very bad. Even if you have Sage Wall, you're going to struggle. So sometimes you'll see Sovas use Shock Dart to try to break the Killjoy mollies. And then at least you only have to worry about 2 mollies. And if that's the case, then it's doable. You just have to plant not on the first wall cycle, which I'll put the wall here. You're not looking to plant on the first wall. You're typically looking to plant on the second wall. And then if they do have the 4 mollies, then you're probably going to be planting on the third wall, which you can see is kind of annoying. So super annoying.
So this is like a really big waiting game here.
Yep, it sucks, which is probably why when you take B main space, you probably have like a mid lurk or an A lurk. Because if they do commit all that util to delay B, you could probably catch a timing in mid or A somewhere and make them kind of paranoid.
Is there a world... Is it necessary or helpful at all? Because I have seen sometimes in VCT where players will push, let's say players will push into snowman.
Okay, so that's actually a great play. It's actually easier now because on the previous Icebox, this lane that I'm going to draw used to exist. And the guy in this window here where the line starts, I'm just going to throw an omen there, used to be able to rotate from mid or whatever and be in this line and then kind of fight that, right? Now that line no longer exists, when you do this snowman push, your only threats really is the guy backside and a player potentially snowman. So actually pushing snowman is very good. It's even better now the map has changed. It's just people don't do it. It's very hard to coordinate. But it is a better play, 100%. And it's worth noting as well with the little variation that I talked about on the Viper wall. If they do this molly spam thingy, and you do the wall where you can get a little bit deeper, right? Notice how this one's like around the corner and not flush with the corner. When they throw that molly and you happen to be a little bit closer, you can try to push the wall and get that timing. So yeah, it's again risky, but sometimes it's better to avoid the waiting game.
Got it. Where are you playing post plant?
Okay, so post plant, if you have a mid lurk, you're just playing to delay. If you do play to delay, you're pretty much all going to be main with maybe 1 yellow player. If you do have a yellow player, they typically play super passive, like here. And you're just super delaying for that lurk. If you don't have the lurk, then you're just fighting. You're just crossing your fingers. Hopefully you win the duels and win the round that way. So if that is the case, you might have like 2 or 3 players yellow, and then you're just ego chelling. Sometimes this player will even go wide out danger if you can time it with the Viper wall on the 2nd or 3rd or 4th or 5th. When it comes up, they go wide with the wall and they try to play here and get as many kills as possible.
Are there any eco strats you would do on the attacking side?
Yeah, I think the easiest one to pull off that everyone is probably okay with doing is just doing the orb here, and then all 5 players just kind of go through the orb and push this way to kill the boiler guy. That's probably my favorite. If you aren't going to do that one, then I guess you can go into kitchen. Kitchen's not bad either. Decent close range fights. You just have to hopefully kill the guy that's playing back here if he is there. But again, not bad.
Let's switch the map to the defending side. And we can just lay out what does the typical setup look like between A, mid, and B.
Okay, so probably the most let's start from simple to most complex. I think the most simple will actually be B. So typically your Viper will play here, and then they either have the one-way orb here or they have the orb on plant, right? Depending on how you want to play it. Viper kind of jiggles for info, jump spots, or if they are fighting for it, they will play yellow and then activate one way and then fight for the one way, right?
Yeah.
Typically the Viper is going to be solo B player, or maybe if your teammates are a little bit more well-rounded, you will have a player play your mid B. In the case here would probably be the Killjoy. So now we're going from simple to a little bit more complex. More complex in this situation, I think, would be mid. Your mid spotter is going to vary. Typically, it's going to be your Sentinel. So that's going to be your Killjoy or your Sage to deal with the tube Lurk. Or you have a Sova, and or Sova can assist. So let's start with the Killjoy. Killjoy is going to be the most straightforward here. You can cover all avenues of the Lurk. I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe the turret that people do is like on this little shelf here in kitchen. So you can see the under tube and tube walk up. And then they like to put like an alarm bot either here, or maybe even they put one off barrier, or sorry, after the barrier drops a little bit deeper. So something like this. And then with this setup, the Killjoy can kind of play wherever they want to. Most commonly, they'll probably play actually here to deny the mid B, and they can be in range to kind of capitalize off the mollies for the B plant.
Okay.
Right. So this is probably the strongest setup you'll have for the mid and A stuff. Okay. Now, like I said, there's a little bit more nuance here. So we'll throw in the Sova and we'll throw in the Sage to kind of break these down as well. So again, Sova likes the early dart mid, just again for the Lurker or for the B rush. And sometimes even after that dart, they will drop down and drone to even full clear the Lurker. So that's typically how Sova plays mid B. They play boiler, they play the dart here. If they don't insta dart, they can also do supporting darts for A once they rotate, right? Because it's a very short rotate. You can walk over and throw the dart. Or you have a lineup dart that lands for B to get B info. That's also very good. And there's a lineup here that you can learn that I believe the dart lands somewhere on B. I think it's for shock darts actually. Okay. But you can see by being in the center of the map as Sova, you can have decent.
You have a lot of control.
Yes. So that's why it's like an and or with the Sova.
Yeah.
Sometimes the Sova can play just A.
So what's interesting now that we're talking about it, the one play pattern I see actually, even though the geometry is really different, it feels like actually mid is kind of like mid in split.
Yeah, I could see that.
How there's always a late lurk, because just the way you're talking about it, it's like it's really actually important if the other team's playing properly and playing that lurking mid. This guy Sova, all of his util here, all of his efforts are really trying to clear that out. To make sure that it isn't there, or if it is there, that they're going to try and deal with it. Yeah,
mid, if you play against a really slow attack and they just run down the clock, eventually you're going to run out of util, and there will always be a possibility of a lurk. So although Icebox might be the most straightforward on attacks, because you can either just go A or go B and have a lurk, it becomes more and more annoying for defense to deal with because you only play a single initiator. So yeah, if any of you guys want to increase your Icebox win rate from like 50% to 70%, just slow down your attack half by like, 30 seconds to a full minute, and you'll just see a lot more openings. Which, yeah.
Well, because I mean, even in my mind, if someone's not hitting A in the first 10 seconds, most of the time you just leave, right?
Yeah, you don't even know what to do.
They've got to be somewhere else.
Yeah, and you can't take space mid because it's risky, right? Yeah. And you can't take space B main because that's risky. You could try to, right? And sometimes you have to, but it's suboptimal compared to other maps. So, yeah. Okay, and then Sage, again, just throwing in the nuance. You can either insta-wall tube, so they can't walk up tube. Some people like to do this. The Sage could also start boiler and insta-slow, so they can't get that timing and then walk to tube later if you want to. Or you could save the wall, just insta-slow, so they can't do a fast lurk, and then you rotate to put your wall in A or B. So you can see mid is a little bit more complex than B, but the general idea is just to stop that lurk.
Got it.
I'm going to erase some stuff. Let's just get rid of this.
And then usually is the Viper here leaving the wall, like that 410 wall?
Yeah, so good point. The Vipers typically will do that wall insta round. I think it's actually from here. Yeah, something like this. And then they either rotate to B or they have an orb lineup from here that lands on default for the orb. But yeah, typically the wall A is good. So yeah, I guess now we should move into A. In my opinion, Icebox defense for A site, there's a few stages. You have close. So I know we talked about this for attack, but let's outline it for defense as well. I'm going to do it in boxes. So we have red box, yellow box, and let's make this last one green box. Green's kind of hard to see. Let me do white maybe. Yeah, I like white.
White box, sure.
Kind of like white a little bit more. Okay, so kind of like that. Maybe we can cut this off here. Can I erase that? Oh, I'll have to draw it again. Okay. Okay, so Icebox A kind of has 3 zones, right? So as defenders, you want to contest those 3 zones in an ideal world.
Yeah.
Because you have 3 contact points to get kills and defend the site. So typically as Jet, you can contest this close space by getting on top of pipes. And you could fight into the red zone, right? Kind of like taking the duel here. Or if you have a player that wants to push up lower, you can also fight belt. This same angle here. You can up down it. If you want to contest belt, you can do that from a variety of different positions, right? So mid-sight box, on top of 410, nest, even rafters or hell. The point is that you're looking for a duel in the red zone, right? So if you get a kill in the red zone.
So you are looking for a duel.
Yeah. Typically, if you have an op especially, which is why the op is so important, you do want to contest the red zone.
Okay.
After you contest the red zone, maybe you traded some util. The most important thing that I skipped over is actually you want to break this dart. So I know we talked about that on attack. As defense, your job now is to break the dart so that they can't get the red zone for free.
Or just make it hard.
Just make it hard, right? So then you do that. You probably fall back, right? So now you're taking your shots. You've fallen back. You probably now play here. You can even get into that corner, actually, just for the sake of continuity. We'll play this corner. And then we'll play a guy behind Jen. So now you're contesting the yellow zone. The Jet ideally gets one, dashes out. Maybe your Reyna here will be looking at your top pipes. And, you get a kill, you fall back. And this is kind of where you start utilizing the Viper wall a little bit. So notice how this wall comes in between the yellow and the white box.
Yeah.
You can use the wall to kind of stop them once the enemy is in the yellow box so they can't push the white box. Or you can use the wall to kind of delay and then put yourself in a position to re-aggress the yellow box. But this is, again, where you see that wall usage.
Okay.
And then when everything starts to the execute starts to happen, you start turtling in the white zone, your rotator starts coming in, the wall hopefully is coming up by now, and it's just looking to fight here. Again, the rafters plus hell up down situation is very strong.
Yeah.
And you're just doing everything you can to kind of just stop the plant. You just util dump everything here.
So you're not necessarily you're not feeling okay just giving that space and giving up the plant.
Okay, so you can. There's some nuance there, but I don't recommend it because I feel like my teammates just suck at playing retakes.
Yeah.
So if I'm the duelist or if I'm the initiator rotating, I'm just going to be fighting for sight most of the time.
Sure.
Plant denial adds in a completely different element to this map, which Woohoojin talks about in his Icebox guide a lot.
Yeah.
But if you are going for the plant denial strategy, let me erase these boxes. That typically means that you're having like a Sova shock dart lineup or like a raise nade lineup or a Viper Molly lineup that all lands around this default /rope area.
Yeah.
And then you're just spamming the util there until their wall goes down. And then you can put your wall back up and flood the site. So if you're, again, looking for a way to increase your Icebox win rate from like 50 to 70%, you can incorporate this tactic of just plant denial, right? Okay. So the key for attack is playing slower, working the map, having those lurks. The key for defense is playing for plant denial, which is, again, why those killjoy mollies on B are so annoying.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's like a nice little tech way you could do it. But my personal preference and a little bit more maybe consistent way to play, because not everyone likes to play for plant denial, is just to play for kills on site. And that's why I outlined those 3 boxes. But it is worth noting, especially if you're playing support agents, to try to go for plant denial as much as possible.
Is there any kind of nuance around mid-round adjustments? So, let's say the other team's playing well, they're playing slow. Where do you want to be rotating? If you're rotating, do you want to be clearing out mid? What is the kind of stance or kind of mindset you want to have mid round on the defensive side.
Okay, so again, this is why this map is very hard for defenders in this type of game of guessing where they are. So you have a few options. If you're playing aggressive A already, you do want your jet or your duelist to kind of take aggressive space. That might be in pushing belt because you can just take the rope and jump over if you don't have float, or you can just float over, or maybe you'd push up here, or maybe you're playing jail, right? So if you can, taking A space is huge. If you can't, or if it's too risky, then you have an op posted on a passive angle somewhere back here to hold A space. If you can't do that either, or if you are just playing the rotate game, let's say they are going B or something like that, then you rotate with your teammates from A, and then you go clear mid together. The most common way to do this is just drone and then have someone follow it, and then you clear all in mid.
Okay.
And then if you have the line here, you could stay posted because if you have the line here,
they can't cross back.
Yeah, they can't cross back either or, right? So that's obviously a great power move. You can't really mid-round aggress into B main. You can try, but it's harder to time. It's a lot harder to do, so I don't recommend it. Typically, as the round goes on and on, your B players will start shifting backwards, and they'll play more for like contact and more of like a B retake plant denial situation. So notice how... Go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead.
I was going to say, notice how on B, you're less likely, or like you're less willing to look for duels, and you're more so looking to deny plant.
Yeah, okay. When is a duelist, when does it make sense? So you talked about how on A, we might push up into this red area. I'm circling in yellow. When is the decision good to push out into spawn and start taking this line?
Yeah. So you do want to kind of rely on your teammates giving you info. So if the enemy team is heavily in B main, for example, that's a good time to go for it. And you can kind of just like, especially if your jet has an op, you just like kind of post here and then just, look at the rotate back. Notice though how long this area is. So if you do end up going for the flank, you have a high chance of just getting caught in the open. So it is a little bit risky. You do kind of want to get minimap info, and like if they're actively pushing B and going for the plant, for example, then you can start crossing. Otherwise, it's probably a little bit more better, not more better, just to play a little bit patient.
I feel like we covered most of it. Okay, maybe the last one is same question we had on offense or attacking was on defense. Are there any particular eco strats that you would like? Let's say you use pistol. What are you doing?
Okay, so there's a very easy one you can do. You literally just send everyone to B. Whatever util you have, you just yeet it to B, and you try to close the distance as fast as possible to get into garage. If you get into garage, chances are you actually get two or three kills if they're there, just because they don't expect you. So that's number one. Number two is if you have a sage, you all kind of just stand in front of the sage, and then you just like sage wall boost up on top of
and then
belt.
run up belt.
Yeah, and then hopefully if you have sheriffs or something, you can kind of just get a few kills and trade out from there and hope for the best. But it can get pretty chaotic.
Create some chaos. Okay. And if I'm kind of drawing a kind of theme through the eco strats, it's you want chaos and ideally a death ball.
Yep. That's you want to trade out and overwhelm them essentially. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks for running us through that, Adam. I know I learned a lot. I hope you all learned a lot. I actually don't know which map we're going to do next. I'll probably put up a new post on the community wall. Now that we've run through Icebox, we did Sunset last week. If you want to learn more about that, you can watch the video here. And with that, hope everyone's having a great day. Thanks for watching.
Peace out.